सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
This is my third national interest article on Manipur in the last couple of months since the trouble started. Besides this, there have been about 3 Cut the Clutter episodes also. So let me start this episode of National Interest, the video version of National Interest, with a disclosure and also a confession of sorts. The disclosure is that among the national interest articles that I have done, say in this period, last 3 months, maybe last 6 months, and also the video versions, also Cut the Clutter episodes on Manipur, barring maybe one, all these generally have had a lower viewership, a lower readership than the others. Not as much as some of the best, most seen or most read ones on other subjects. What does it tell us? It tells us that there is apathy about what's happening in Manipur, and it's widespread. And if at the popular level, and I do believe that our audiences, our readers, our viewers are among the most evolved, the most intelligent, and the most thoughtful in the country. So if even among those like us, serious thinking Indians, there is this kind of indifference to the Northeast and what's happening in Manipur, why do we blame our government? Why do we blame New Delhi? That's a question that 35 lakh Manipuris are asking today. And that's the reason I thought I will defy the law of the numbers and talk about Manipur once again. Because if I don't do that, then I'm not true to my profession, and the fact I'm also letting you down, given the fact that I am probably among the longest serving, among the senior most editors and journalists in the country. If you want to check out the biggest immediate security threat, internal or external, confronting our country today, please do not look for it on most of our TV news channels. You might then be deluded into believing it's the violence in the West Bengal Panchayat elections. Look further east. Find Manipur on the map of the Republic, check your screen, and if you think it matters for you as a patriotic Indian, then we go forward with this argument. The state, Manipur, is caught in an anarchy not seen in any part of India for decades. Even to one so used to watching civil unrest, insurgency and terrorism for better part of 4 decades like this writer, the picture in Manipur is unprecedented. One community has fought the other before in India. State governments have lost control and respect often enough in the past. Even the Meiteis center has struggled to calm things down sometimes or in fact often in the past. But for 6 weeks running and in 2023, it was one thing when these challenges came in the 50s, Nagaland for example, 60s, Mizoram, or even the early 80s, Punjab and Assam. But in 2023, with the kind of political control the BJP has at the center and in the state, and with the communication, logistics, military and paramilitary power available now, the past is no guide to the present, especially when it comes to asserting the power of the state. So basic was the communication in the Northeast even until the early 80s, when 3 active insurgencies still raged, that is Naga, Mizo and Manipuri, and Assam was in chaos, that as a reporter I had to file at least 2 stories from a Morse machine from the telegraph office in Mokokchung in Nagaland. Weak or nearly absent lines of communication that made the job of governance in the Northeast, in the insurgency hit region, that much tougher, and the job of a reporter nearly impossible. Today's communication and logistics should leave no such excuses. What is it in the past that the situation in Manipur now compares with? We can look at some instances and then also study how the governments responded to them then. First, however, is the difference from the past that makes this Manipur crisis unique, sui generis as they say. One community has targeted other often enough in the Northeast and elsewhere in the country in the past. In Assam, the Bengali speakers, for example, and then more specifically the Muslim Bengali speakers were targeted, often violently. But the state acted promptly, took tough action and restored its own authority very quickly. In Tripura, we saw the smaller tribal minority, just about 25% or maybe even a little less of the population, carry out targeted killings of the Bengali majority. First and the most famous of these was the Mandai massacre near Agartala on 8 June 1980 that left between 400 to 600 innocent villagers dead. These included children, babies, pregnant women. In fact, the numbers vary. Official figures were about 400, but there are people who would say it was not less than 800 or even 1,000, but I would say between 400 and 600. It was a terrible massacre. That was put down fast too, that insurgency. In Kashmir, for example, the center and the state both lost control of the situation for several months in 1990 when VP Singh was Prime Minister. Yet, the state was always fighting back. The central government also may have lost its nerve, but the army was there, the agencies were there, they were fighting back. It was not seen to be in the barracks, the state was not seen to be in the barracks, as is the case in Manipur. The center still, although it was divided, imposed president's rule, sent a strong governor from Delhi, namely Jagmohan. This is not the case in Manipur, where the state looks missing in action. Police armories were not being looted of thousands of weapons in Kashmir without any resistance. In Manipur, the looters are so brazen they leave behind their Aadhaar cards so that in case there is an inquiry, the cops on duty can help. Can help not them, but can help themselves by saying, look, I'm giving you evidence, such and such took these weapons. That tells you how brazen the looters are. Within the Northeast, probably the most dire threat came from within weeks of Indira Gandhi taking over as Prime Minister in 1966, January 1966. She was then widely seen as not a particularly powerful Prime Minister. India had also seen the death of two successive Prime Ministers in harness, Nehru and Shastri, within about 19 months. The Mizo rebels declared a sovereign Mizoram in what was still a mere district, Lushai Hill districts of Assam, and they were on the verge of overrunning the Deputy Commissioner's office and the local Assam Rifles Battalion headquarters. Indira Gandhi responded by unleashing the Indian Air Force on bombing and strafing missions. That act is still considered controversial and high-handed, but high-handed or not, it still put down the rebellion long enough for the first columns of army troops from 5th Para to fight their way in from the plains nearly 200 kilometers away, which brings us to Punjab in the early 80s. And the reason we left it as the last among the list of examples is because it may hold the key to what may be the way ahead for Manipur. The first rash of terror killings rose in the Bhindranwale years of 1981-83. The Congress party had returned to power at the centre and in the state. Darbara Singh was then its chief minister. As the killings of Hindus, a prominent newspaper owner-editor, Lala Jagat Narayan of Punjab Kesari, and a police DIG, A.S. Atwal, shook the nation, what did Mrs. Gandhi do? She sacked her own party's government and chief minister using Article 356 and imposed president's rule in Punjab, a state governed by her own party. History tells us that it did not end the challenge in Punjab, but at least it demonstrated a willingness to acknowledge the threat and governance failure for what it was. If the answer to every new crisis, misstep or setback is that it's happened before, especially under the rule of the Congress, it is also useful to look back at history or that history for precedents. It was no weak government in New Delhi that invoked Article 356 of the Constitution to dismiss its own full majority government in a relatively large state just 220 kilometers away from Delhi. It was Indira Gandhi at the peak of her post-emergency power with a majority larger than the BJP's today. We can understand why this government may be hesitant to take a leaf out of Mrs. Gandhi's book. But any which way you look at the situation honestly, hand on your heart, you would know that the state government at this point is central to the problem, not a part of the solution. It's trusted by neither side. Its top functionaries are invisible, most of them in hiding, and its most important responsibility, maintenance of law and order, remember that's a state subject. Maintenance of law and order is being performed by advisors and officers sent in from the outside, so it's like having the president's rule without having the president's rule. But the continuation of that government, that cabinet, the divided legislature party and that chief minister is itself a provocation for a very angry people. That's why we say that this government's very continuation is a provocation to all of Manipuris, to both sides. Kukis see it as partisan with the majoritarian agenda. The Meiteis see it as incapable of even protecting them, despite having won such a massive electoral support from them, and despite having a Meitei chief minister. And even the Nagas there, even the Naga MLAs from the BJP legislature party have said that currently the situation under this government is unsustainable and unacceptable. For every crisis and how it is to be handled, there may be precedents from the past. There are several features, however, that makes this ongoing Manipur disaster unprecedented. We list just 3. Number 1, we've had countless examples of one community targeting the other on the basis of religion, ethnicity or language. We've also seen 2 communities fighting pitched battles. This is the first time in our history that we have 2 communities in large numbers, very large numbers, fully armed with automatic weapons, including long-range sniper rifles that most of our uniformed forces would envy. This is how you define a civil war. Number 2, it is the first time that while anarchy has raged for 6 weeks, the government has failed to come up with any decisive political response, sending more forces that this terrain can keep consuming. This is mountainous, wooded terrain. This can consume any amount of forces that you send. Sending negotiators, setting up a peace committee that nobody accepts, these have all failed. These are mere band-aids, and the wound is just too big for these band-aids to contain it. Number 3, in our history, in India's history, there have been umpteen cases of the exodus of one victim community. The Kashmiri Pandits, for example. In Manipur, both major communities are fleeing. Basically, anybody who can leave Manipur is leaving. This is new. The center is empowered and also charged with the responsibility under Article 355 of our Constitution to protect every state of the Republic from external and internal threats. If a state government fails despite all the help the center gives under Article 355, that state government must go under Article 356. There is no shame in it. That's why the article is there. Remember again, Indira Gandhi did it with her own government in Punjab and with her own Chief Minister, Darbara Singh. Now this action, dismissal of the government under Article 356, imposition of President's rule, Governor's rule, sending in advisors from Delhi formally, it won't resolve the issue in this broken state instantly. That will be a long haul. But at least it will be a beginning and seen as such by both sides. It will also address the one emotion both sides share equally. In fact, at this point, it seems to be the only emotion they share, and they share it equally. And what is that emotion? That our Manipur is burning, but nobody's bothered.